Hi, I'm Art Bailey. This is the IMT curriculum, Musculoskeletal Alignment. The purpose of this curriculum is to give you a new tool, hopefully to correct people's structure more than you've been doing. What so often happens to us is people come in and say, my neck and shoulders are killing me, my low back is killing me, and could you just work on this area? And yet that's not the cause. And one of the cardinal rules in structural work is don't chase the pain. If you do, you'll never get to the bottom of it. And then we're just totally overwhelmed with structural analysis. So what we're looking for is a recipe that we can apply to the majority of people that walk in the door and get a very good result. The person should get up and feel straighter, their shoulders should feel loose, their back should feel better. It shouldn't matter what their overall pain issue is. One good curriculum can cover the majority of those problems if you know how to apply it. And that's the whole point of this curriculum, to teach you a recipe. A famous body worker once said, get them straight. If they quit hurting, that's their tough luck. That was a very profound statement, and it really got me to looking at structure from that aspect. People are so bent over. They come in, majority of people are humped over, their head's too far forward, their back is bowed, and they're hurting from head to toe for these reasons. They have fallen arches, the legs are too tight. You name it, it all has some correlation. So if they come in with foot pain, knee pain, low back pain, neck and shoulder pain, it doesn't matter. I find that this overall curriculum gets a substantial amount of relief. And that's what it's really about. If you're a body worker and you really care about people, you want to be able to give them some lasting relief. You don't want them coming in every week for the same chronic, miserable problem. So my goal is to get them straight, get them to quit hurting, and then educate them how to continually keep it that way. So what I've done is created a unique system of bolstering and a methodology of working. And I've taken these ideas from everybody that's out there. All the great people that are out there have been just putting out information, and I have a God-given gift of synthesizing information. It's what I do as a teacher. I've instructed martial arts professionally for over 20 years, and I use the same concept. I take principles as opposed to techniques and apply those principles in a systematic way that makes sense. It shouldn't be mind-numbing. What are some of the things that we can use to help us? Well, I have a system of bolstering that's been developed, and that bolstering is unique, and it saves you hours of labor and time. I try to think outside of the box. Some of the other things I do is I use hand tools. Here's a hand tool, just a beautiful hand tool. Michael Daniels makes these. They're hand-carved stones. And this is not one of those spa massage hot rocks. This is an actual tool. And you can put it in water and heat it. You can put it in ice and cool it. And it's spectacular. I can't tell you how wonderful this tool is to use. I have injuries in my hands. I had physical therapy for a year. I was told I wouldn't be able to use my hands more than 50%. I had a reconstructed left hand. But I tell you, I work long hours, and I use these tools, and they are a lifesaver. This particular one has just a wonderful design. I think God just inspired Daniel how to do this. Here's another one that he has, and this is more of a, I call it a hand chisel. And they come in different types of rocks. Those are jade. I think this is travertine, and then they also come in stones like marble, jasper. And they're just beautiful pieces of equipment. I can't tell you how much I endorse this. And I'm one of these people, like my mentor, Paul Harvey. He doesn't endorse anything that he doesn't use and doesn't like. And I always appreciated that. And I said the same thing when I got into my own business. I don't endorse anything that I don't use and that I don't like. And so I endorse these, and I admonish you to use these. And we'll be using these in the curriculum, and I'll also show you how to use your hands more effectively. Because of my hand injuries, I have to use my hands more effectively. Otherwise, they're just going to hurt all the time. And you have to work deep, but you have to work effectively. So the key to what I try to offer you is how to work smarter, not harder. I'm trying to give you a recipe that really works, and if you follow this recipe and then add your own twist to it, again, don't get strung out with my techniques. Use the principles and the concepts. Get them straight. If they quit hurting, that's their tough luck. One of the primary things I believe that people have so much pain from is the core energy of the body is just sucked out because of postural distortion. It takes a lot of energy to stay distorted and feel bad in the typical upper cross and lower cross syndrome. Our shoulders are rounded and our back is bowed and kyphosis. We have a lot of lordosis in our back and our hips are displaced, and that you have anterior rotations. And this is just a quagmire, and it takes a lot of energy to keep the body distorted like that. If you take that energy and give it back to the body, your metabolic rate increases, your breathing improves, your cognizance improves. So many things will improve. When your client gets off the table, they'll say, I haven't felt this straight and this well in so long. And they'll recognize immediately a profound change, and that will keep you in business. Guaranteed, people will keep coming for that. They'll tell everybody about it. You won't have to advertise. When you do this kind of work, it's a fact. They'll be beating your doors down because this is what people are looking for. Massage is wonderful. Relaxation is wonderful. But the majority of people have some kind of a pain issue, and it's just chronic and ongoing, and they just feel so defeated because that is the misery of their life. And you take it away and educate them how to keep it. Now here's the key. Educate them how to do it. There's no vested interest in having the same person come in every week for the same chronic problem. If I had a car like that, I'd be suing someone. Have them come in once a month for maintenance. That's as much as they should. After you've taken them through a regimen, they get some straighter, feeling better, then put them on a maintenance plan, and you'll have more business than you'll know what to do with. So again, don't get caught up in my techniques. Concepts and principles are the most important thing. Take this concept and understand it's like taking a car apart or anything mechanical. There's a sequence to the movements. Understand the sequence and how they interrelate. Do the sequence, follow the concept, and use my techniques if you prefer. If you have better ones, use them. And if you have even better ones, send me information. I'll be most happy to use it. I tell anybody, show me something better, I'll steal it. I'll give you credit for it. Actually, we don't steal anything. We liberate it. I have a military background. Military, you liberate things. Makes it sound like it wants to go with you. Anyway, let's get started with this regimen. And I think you'll find that it's wonderful. It's easy to understand for the novice and for the advanced practitioner. And understand that you are a body worker and you have an intuitive sense about what to do. Because you love the work, or you wouldn't be doing it. We all have this God-given gift. That's why we're called to use those gifts. And those of us that really love this work and do it, we know that is a God-given gift. And just as I have mine, I want to share it with you. So, let's get started. We're going to have some fun. Okay, in this section of the structural alignment, musculoskeletal alignment, we're going to also include the self-help portion that a person can do for themselves. So, in order to do that, we want you to understand a few things. In the self-help portion, it's for people that have low back pain, their hips have rotated, they have neck and shoulder pain. So part of the regimen that we're doing overall will also be part of the self-help regimen. The first thing you want to do for someone is to set the pubic symphysis. And what happens is the two halves of the hips are called innominates, and the hip misaligns. You can see that through the bone here called the ASIS, anterior superior iliac spine. And that misalignment causes a lot of pressure in the low back, and often people say, I have a pain all the way around my hip and into my groin. And that's a very common problem. Wayne experienced this recently, and we did this for him, and it gave him a substantial amount of relief. Now you can do this for yourself, and first way to do it for yourself is bring your legs up, put your heels together, and I'm going to use one of these bolsters. This is that unique bolster we're going to cover in this series. Place it here, and he's going to keep his heels together and rapidly squeeze hard together and release. And again, and release. And often you'll get a click that occurs when you do that. Now if you have someone that's here that can do that for you, then you simply ask them to close your legs real hard, and you open them, and close hard and open them. A lot of times this will immediately take out a lot of low back dysfunction. So let's say that particular pain has subsided, but we still have a certain amount of pain. And often that is the psoas muscle complex. The psoas muscle attaches up here T12 in your spine, comes all the way down, blends into the hip into a muscle called iliacus, and attaches to the inside of femur at what's called the lesser trochanter. You can easily test the psoas to see if it's being involved by coming up here and finding the crest, that is the bone, and pressing in and toward the center of the body. You can test it for yourself. If it's real sore on this side, if it's sore on this side, very often that psoas muscle is responsible for that certain amount of soreness, meaning that the hip is rotated and the muscle's too tight. So a fast, easy way to release this is, first of all, I've already laid him on a heating pad. I'm going to ask you to sit up for me. It's important that you don't lay on heat for a long period of time. These particular pads are microwavable, and they use silicone instead of some bird seed, something that the animals will eat. And so they draw moisture out of the air. You can take anything like this or a hot towel that is wet, and you microwave it to get heat, and you lie on it. So you don't lie on heat for an extended period of time. And then I'm back to using these stones again. And you can use the stones, or you can use any particular thing that you can heat up. You can take 2 little water bottles and put hot water in them. And normally you lay these, finding the crest in this vicinity, just like this. And I'll normally just lay it inside the pants. But see, they just kind of fit right around the bone. Okay. Then you would elevate both legs using a bolster similar to this or anything that you can find. Again, there's a kit that we're marketing that has all these components in it. It doesn't have the stones, but it does have the hot pad and this bolster, the little memory foam pillow for your head, and this particular bolster that we just used to release the symphysis. Cross the leg, open the knees, bend the legs back towards you, and this is the release position for what's called iliacus and psoas. Often they'll say it's tighter on one side than the other. If it is, simply rock the legs until you come to a position of ease to where you feel no pain, and stay in that position. And what you're doing is turning off that muscle neurologically. And you take away its stimulus, because it wants to bend and you're bending it mechanically. The body puts sending electricity to the muscle, and therefore it basically turns off. While you're in this position, then come back to what's called a costal margin. That's where the ribs attach right here, and drag this tissue together and lengthen this tissue by bringing it together like you're trying to create a furrow. And this is the opposite muscle that affects the psoas. So as it's tight in the front here, it has you bent, and the psoas muscle is tighter in your back. So if you lengthen the front, the psoas muscle being in your back, like my arms are representing, winds up releasing. So you can get in this position and substantially relieve a low back pain. That's a very common pain to have in your back. Okay? And you'll stay in this position, well, for the duration, normally about 10 minutes, something like that. Now we'll take this out, and we'll start the overall structural regimen. So we'll say we've already done that. As far as release, this person's low back. And I'm going to pick up a little ointment, bring it over here to where I can use it. Put it right there for me. Put a little bit of ointment on the bottom of the foot. Sometimes the feet are extremely dry and cracked, and this certainly helps when you're going to do this work. And we're going to do some rocking. I place the foot into my abdominal cavity, which feels fine to me. Some people say, I don't know how you do this, but it really isn't that hard on you. My body is doing the rocking. I'm holding this foot right next to me. I'm reaching in here to the heel cord, placing tension, trying to go up underneath the heel cord. Often you'll find trigger points in that area. And placing the foot at one angle like this is pulling to part of the gastroc. And then switching. Again, constantly keeping it in close to you. And this pulls into the other part of the gastroc. At the same time, I'm loosening this retinaculum band in the front, noticing that my hand is reaching and pulling into the instep. So really I'm trying to just loosen up the foot. You'll feel all the bones loosen up as you do this work. It's a very nice piece of work for plantar fasciitis. And it definitely loosens up the lower leg. So we'll start from there, and then from there we'll go on into a piece of bolstering for the leg. I like using bolsters. It certainly makes my work easier. The next thing I want to do then is reach here and work this anterior section. A lot of times people tell me that they have a lot of pain in the bottom of the foot. And you can test that, of course. You can take one of these stones and you can warm up this area. And you can strip through it. And use your knuckles, using the stones as a real good hand support. And lay into it again. Brace your arm into your body. If it's too sore to do that, and sometimes it is, you'll find if you release this anterior tibialis, where people so often get what's called shin splints, that is going to be a lot of the pain that they're dealing with. Again, nice and easy, starting way down at the instep and coming up. And I'll ask him to bring his foot up and down for me. That is just the foot like this one. Nice and slow. There you go. And down. And up. A little bit faster for me. And down. There you go. And as he does this, I'll just work right up. And of course, come off of it at 90 degrees. That's good. And again, you can use one of these stones just like this. Soften this tissue using my thumb, using my knuckles, and using a piece of this stone at the same time. And that is working the anterior lower leg. A very common problem that people have is hyperpronation, and it causes so often that fallen arch. And you can see, if you look, where the muscles are too tight. If this is too tight to this peroneal, then it's going to pull the foot in this position. If you look at the bottom of the foot itself, you can see if it's cupped too much on one side or the other. And work the areas that is pulling toward, and try to release the tissue that seems to be pulling and deforming the foot. All you got to do is see where something is being pulled too much and release the area that is being pulled. Another thing to release the pain in the bottom of the foot is simply reach around at the malleolus on both sides. Now don't dig in here, it's very painful. Add a little bit of pressure and slowly sink in and around the bands and move the foot. The proprioceptive signaling here will help lengthen some of this muscle tissue because of the Golgi's tendon organs located at the ends of the muscles. So you can do this, and again, then go back and test. And you'll know where the soreness is coming from, where the tension is coming from. And that's how you can address that issue. Okay, we want to go then from the lower leg up into the upper leg. And we'll roll this right up here. And same thing, pick up quadriceps. Always try to pick up the muscles, scoop underneath and pick the muscles up. Try to create as much space as you can between the sleeves of the muscles. And again, you can do this. This is where I often use 2 stones. Because I find it's handier. Again, you'll have to figure out what tips of the stones to use. Here, as you can see, my thumbs are working. They're supported by the stone, and I can pick it up a little bit more. At the same time, remember, these are warm and they're wet, and the tissue will be relaxing faster to that stimulus. Okay? From there, you want to work across to the abductors. Simply bring the leg across. Normally I take this out of the way. Bend the bottom of the leg. That keeps him from rolling so much. I straighten it. Working around the instep. Really work that retinaculum and under the base of the foot. Remember that the tibialis posterior and the peroneal longus form a strap that comes up underneath the foot and basically helps create the arch. So it's important to get those muscles to release their tension in order to get the foot to get good alignment. Okay? Then simply cradle it in your arm. Reach up here above the malleolus, basically capturing at the instep, and with the broad band of your arm, and let your body fall into it. Don't just sit here and push with your arm. Let your body weight fall into it. And you get up around the bony areas, like the fibula there. Ease up a little bit. Cross back into it. And you're on that vastus lateralis here. Come all the way up until you feel the trochanter and kind of loop around it. You can go up underneath that vastus lateralis between it and the hamstring with your elbow. Same thing. Come back to the rectus femoris right here, using your elbow, and just loosen all the tissue. Again, allow it to bend. Work it at a 90-degree angle to the muscle, and you'll find fascia loosens faster if you work 90 degrees to the muscle. Okay, this is not rocket science, and I'm sure you've got 100 other ways of doing the same thing, but understand you have to get this entire lateral line to loosen up. And from here, continue to bring the leg, and you can do this any number of ways. This leg's going to be straight. And wait, I'm going to slide this out from underneath you. So if you're working into these areas that feel a little uncomfortable to people, simply place one of these nice, heavy, hot pads in that area, and you'll find that gives you a real nice barrier, and you won't accidentally slip and cause them discomfort. And they'll be appreciative of that. Okay? Again, keep the legs straight. Working that retinaculum again in the front, across the bottom of the feet, and then slowly start moving on the medial aspect of the leg. And be working the adductors, the adductors. I usually place this into my body, and that's where I'll get my pressure from. Okay. What you can do then is leave it at this point and fall into your shoulder and simply slide up between the hamstrings, staying off the engagement area. And raise the leg just like this and move up and down. And slowly go between the hamstrings using the point of your elbow. And follow it all the way down to the ischial tuberosity. And again, same on this side. Here's the medial hamstrings. So you can either pump the leg up and down or just leave it on your shoulder, just like this. Now if you have a really big person that's hard for you to work on, it is possible to get this angle. Simply stand back and back into it using your back. Okay? Doesn't matter how you get there. Understand what you're trying to do. A really important area to work is around this ASIS. So you want to reach around it and hold it. And really work the muscle holding on to the ASIS. Drag your thumb under it, reach around it, because you have so many muscle attachments at this area. And just cross fiber. We'll be doing a lot of IT band work at this point. And that's a good loosening up of that area. Again, we're not going to do both sides constantly because we're trying to cut some of the time on this work. And if you can do one side, you can do the other side. Next thing we want to move into then is a little more bowstring. And we're back to this costal margin. We talked about the costal margin and how important it is to know that this area so often helps pull this entire front line. So releasing it, of course, is going to make it that much better. And I have a tendency of wanting to warm it up. Okay, so I place the stone into this edge, and at the same time move this tissue from lateral to medial. The same thing here. I can just kind of press it up underneath the ribs. You okay here, Wayne? Okay. I'll always check with him, make sure he's doing okay. So you can do this any number of ways. Take my fingers here and then slide up underneath the ribs. Again, the stone is acting to warm the area and it's giving me hand support. Can you do it without it? Sure. It just happens to work a little bit better having something like that nice warm stone working for you. Your clients will tell you in a minute that they prefer having that heat as you're working the tissue. Again, work everything toward the center. Now, the rectus abdominis, of course, goes from here all the way down to the pubic bone. I don't generally work below the navel, not much reason for it, because it gets enough effect right where it is. If you need to go down and work in that area, then you'll have to explain to the person how you're working and they'll be comfortable with it. And there are circumstances that you might want to, but overall this does what you want it to do. So you go from here. The next thing again is working into that psoas. And going across the crest here, pressing down toward the center. And then I capture the entire ASIS usually in my hand. And I find one more muscle. I find the pectineus. I cross the leg and I ask him to raise his knee up. When he does, I go down to the adductor longus and back off a little bit. You'll find the pectineus comes up underneath your fingers. So once you locate that spot, keep a finger on it. Take the rest of your fingers and lead them around the ASIS. Okay. We'll take this bolster out now because I've worked the costal margin for one reason, with a bolster to keep that area folded and soft so it wasn't as tight and hard to work on. Now I don't need it. So I can reach again back to the pectineus, knowing where it is, reach around the ASIS and start moving the leg. As I move the leg in different directions and I keep pressure down, I'll feel the psoas come up underneath my fingers. And what I want to do is clamp it. And as I pull, it will be basically lengthening. So I'm actually giving length to the psoas without causing it to lengthen all the way up to its attachment at T12. And this is a real nice way to release a lot of the problems in the low back. So this range of motion, understand what you're doing here. In order to release the hip from its anterior rotation, you have to be able to release the psoas, the QL, the pectineus, the quadriceps, the IT band. That's usually what's got everything rolled forward. It's important to know that. And all the way down this lateral line, if you don't get this proteus longus to release, then you're not going to get rid of that hyperpronation. Hyperpronation from this proteus longus is sometimes attributed to a chronic SI dysfunction. So you can see why it's important to do this. But you want to do it sequentially. Loosen the plantar fascia. This plantar fascia goes all the way up the back and ends up right around here at the frontalis, all the way up the back, following the bladder meridian. You want to loosen this instep, this retinaculum. This retinaculum acts like a mechanical wheel under which a certain amount of bands run, being these tendons. And it can bind the motion of the foot. So it's important to loosen that up. Very important to loosen up the anterior tibialis. Now this can be very uncomfortable. It's more comfortable often peeling away from the bone at 90 degrees than it is stripping along the bone. And you'll get a much better effect for that. More knee pain is caused from the muscles above and below the knee than anything else. One of the most common spots is the pes anseris, called goosefoot, where you have three muscles that join on the medial aspect here. And that's the gracilis, the sartorius being the longest muscle in the body, and the semitendinosus, part of the hamstring. So it's very important to keep that area loose. Okay? And that pretty much covers the beginning part of this in the supine, number one part of this structural alignment. This will be the sideline position, and it's going to be an optional position, but it is an important position to consider in this structural regimen. And you'll be working everything from the occiput all the way down through the laminar groove into the hip flexors. And one of the more important things I've found is this anterior rotation of the hip, which is the more common problem in the hip, in that it's anteriorly rotated. You can get posterior rotation, but the majority is going to be anterior. So for posterior, just kind of reverse some of the ideas. First thing we want to do then is understand one of the important muscles that seems to fight us is this quadricep and IT band. So we'll bring this up to the ASIS right here. And it's very important to understand that this can be very uncomfortable, so you have to communicate with the person that you're working on at all times. Again, I'm back to using this heat to loosen up the tissue. What I want to do is really lengthen this area. The IT band and this quadricep, especially the vastus lateralis, seems to be a real problem. The easy way to do this is to bring the foot into your body. The way that's important that you let me know if anything's too uncomfortable. I'm expecting a pull right here. I don't want it to pull into the knee. So if it pulls into the knee too much, it's important that you let me know. I'm going to reach in here on the medial side of the knee and hold the attachments of that pes anseris. At the same time, I'm going to pump the leg with my body and start cross fiber. And I'm going to come right in here just below the ASIS and cross fiber. Just like this. And I can take my hand and lever using the leg as a holding point. And then I pull back, same thing. The object, of course, is to get to where you can bring the heel as far back as possible. You can use two arms now, and you can take the tissue right about the ASIS here, or at the trochanter, and you want to take it back, up and back, just like this. And this tissue you want to lengthen in the front, so you can do two things. You can do two movements at one time, and just synchronize your body with it. There you go. Once you get this synchronized, it's not a bad movement at all. Move the gluteals up. Always move the gluteals up and try to get the pressure off of those internal and external rotators. How are we doing there, Wayne? Right. Okay, and that's a really good movement. You can take that movement then, and assume that you lengthen this, and put a little bolster underneath the knee, and again follow that entire lateral line. These little memory foam bolsters are spectacular also. Give a little warmth to this tissue. You can hang this off your table and work with it down if you have an adjustable table. Not everyone does. And I normally reach right up here and capture the tissue at the ASIS and hold it, and then start with a broad band movement. And again, be cognizant of your endangerment areas. Get past the knee, ask him to start. Move your foot up and down for me slowly. There you go, up and down, and up toward me, and down, and up toward me, and down. And do that all the way down. Okay, and you'll make that same stroke as many times as is necessary. You can go a little bit behind the vastus lateralis here, separating it from the hamstring. And same thing, you can go into part of the gastroc here and into the soleus. Up and down, up and down, up and down. There you go. And that peroneal. So that's a real good way to do that. Okay. And then we're going to go above the trochanter here and work the crest and continue on up the back. Okay, now we want to go up the back side. We want to work off the crest, up the back, work the laminar groove, and up into the occipitals. Okay, work this lateral line, and the more you lengthen this side, the more the overall body is going to lengthen and relax. Okay, so we've done the lower leg, and it's bolstered still. And again, keep the bottom knee up. As it stays up, this person stays more stable. I'm going to warm the tissue again. Warm it up the back. And again, tissue likes being warmed with wet, hot water. Okay. Put some ointment on. Now, I want to focus on moving the tissue off the crest from lateral to medial, because I have anterior hip rotation. So if I had posterior hip rotation, I would move in the opposite direction. And that's just working up and off the crest. Next thing I'd like to do then is the QL. For lordosis, you always work medial to lateral. Kyphosis, you always work lateral to medial. So we'll say we have some lordosis here. Finding the QL following the 12th rib, I'll do two motions at once. And this is where I'll support my hand again, because I like hand support. There we go. And I can work this all the way over into that costal margin.